Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining this afternoon session, the Autoimmune Disease Journey, Patient Stories. Before we get started, I want to thank Argenx for their generous sponsorship of today's session, during which you're going to hear from Tanya, Tiffany, and Rachel, 3 women living with autoimmune diseases, each of whom will share their unique experiences today. Now, before we get started, I do want to share that when we met for our prep call a few weeks ago, things got pretty vulnerable, pretty emotional, but I think that's a good thing. And I think it really speaks to the importance of why we're all here today. Too often, those of us that are living with autoimmune conditions face isolation, a lack of understanding, and a lack of support oftentimes from our family, our peers, our friends, our communities, our employers, our world at large, which I think really speaks to why sharing our stories, not just to raise awareness for autoimmune diseases, but to build community, to build our support networks, and to help others understand that they are not alone in their experiences either. But you're not here to hear from me today. You're here to hear from our wonderful panelists. So with that, I'm going to start with Tanya, who is living with lupus and started the United Together Lupus Foundation. Hello, Tanya.
Hello.
And then we are also joined by Tiffany, who is diagnosed with alopecia universalis in 2014 and who has gained great strength and courage since her diagnosis. Welcome, Tiffany.
Well, thank you.
And last but by no means least, Rachel is currently a PhD student living with Sjogren's disease. Thank you for being here, Rachel.
Happy to.
Wonderful. All right, I'm going to go back to you, Tanya. We're going to get started, and this is your spotlight if you'll share your story with us.
All right, thank you. Again, my name is Tanya Jones. I am the founder and CEO of United Together Lupus Foundation, located in Saginaw, Michigan. I'm servicing the Great Lake Bay area. I'm currently married to James Jones, who my husband of 29 years. We share a family of 5 union together. I have 2 beautiful, wonderful daughters-in-law. I have 13 grandchildren and a great-grand on the way with 1 great-grand. So that is my family personal history. But I opened up the foundation in 2022. I opened up the doors May 1st. And the reason I opened up this foundation because I am a lupus survivor and I battled lupus for 7 years without even knowing the condition or knowing what it was. I was just experiencing a lot of things that I was battling with, going back and forth to the doctors, not knowing what was going on. So I just wanted to have someone else not to go what I went through and to be the advocate person for them. Like I said, I was 6 years seeing specialist after specialist, doctor after doctor, in and out the hospital, to the point that I was just overwhelmed with a lot of things that I had no control of having. I currently had my own daycare business for 25 years. I work with young children all my life. I'm also a minister, a licensed minister, and I worked in the church with children. So children was my life and still is, but I just love working with children. And it got to the point where I had to close my doors and I was no longer able to work because of the condition, the pain and everything, the lifting up the children, couldn't hold them. And it came too much to the point that I had to close my daycare, which left me with no job, no income, no insurance, no nothing. So that kind of made it hard for me to do. And some of the things that I faced on those years as I was battling, not knowing that it was lupus, I had 2 miscarriages. I had memory loss. I suffered with migraine headaches. I was dealing with fatigue, that's super tired, not just tired fatigue, that just won't let you sleep, and just chronic pain and rashes, the sensitive to sunlight. I currently had 2 strokes. I couldn't walk nor talk. I experienced having a heart attack. I couldn't walk. I was blind for 3 days. It was just one thing after another that I was experiencing. I was currently on 22 pills for just to the point where I was just getting tired of the pain. Wasn't no answer. So taking pills at that time, if they said it was going to help, give it here, I'm taking it. I'll try it. That's how to the point it had got to. The pain was just so unbearable. I was tested for cancer over 15 times, and each time, to God be the glory, it all came back benign. But even the knowing in that, just waiting for a weak outcome to know, well, is it, if what is it now? If it's this, if it's that, just the not knowing what you're experiencing and what you're going through. Um, I eventually had a mental breakdown um, during this time period because the finances situation, not able to work, not having no job. But where I mostly lost it, it was started losing, going into depression and anxiety to the point I couldn't even get out the bed. I couldn't even get up. My body would just go into paranoia where I felt paralyzed in the bed. I couldn't move. I couldn't get up. It was just attacking my body, the stress of everything. And I eventually had a breakdown after experiencing the loss of the money because we went through $150,000 within a 3-year time span, battling with the bills and stuff like that, to money that my husband had put away for savings that we had a little nest to rely on. But when that nest was gone, it left some wounds inside of me that if I would have never got sick, if I would have never, did that, if I never, it just was a lot to overcome mentally and physically. So I know all about that. And, but I was a faith person in God, and I put my faith and my trust, and I love going to the church. But again, my social life came to a point where that came to a place where I could not get up anymore. The pain was so much I couldn't even, get out the bed. My social life, everything had came to a battle end. Depression started kicking in, but eventually, as me being a woman of faith, I just started praying and putting my trust in God. I said, God, I know you have something better for me. This is not my story. And I just began to fight back and take control of my life. And I just began to get out of the bed. So in 2015, they finally started coming to the conclusion it's looking like lupus. But in 2016, they was getting ready to send me to a neurologist. Come to find out, before the lupus they can get me to the neurologist, the lupus said, here I am. And it showed his head. I find myself in the hospital, stage 5 kidney failure. And I was told there was nothing else they can do because my kidney's progressing real fast. And I was either going to have kidney failure, dialysis, or I was going to die. And I had to put my faith and trust in God at that point. I had my children by my side. I told them, Mama's going to beat this. I'm going to be okay. And I just had to keep the faith and stand on the word of God. In Psalms 118 and verse 7, it said, I will not die but live to proclaim the works of the Lord. And I spoke that over my life, and I've done that. So just having faith in God. In February in 22, I opened up the doors of United Together Lupus Foundation. And as Lupus Awareness Month, my doors was open, ready for business, because at that point in time, I made a choice to help someone else. And it's very important that you have family support. I know a lot of people may not have family support. I want to be that voice. I want to be that person to help someone, to reach out to them, to let them know, look, you're not the only one that experiences this, and you're not the only one that have to go through this alone. I'm here for you. And I want to make that my mission, my calling, my passion to be there. I'm currently working with a lot of people right now in the city or in Bay City areas with lupus. And I'm just here for you. And I just want to let you know, if you need someone, contact United Together Lupus Foundation. Thank you.
Whew, thank you, Tanya. My brain is just still reeling from, it's such a staggering amount that you've been through, and being tested for cancer 15 different times. And every single one of those times, you have to sort of play out the logical conclusion of what that means for you and your family. And that is a really big thing. But I also want not to minimize that at all. But I do really want to thank you for talking about the financial piece of this and being vulnerable enough to talk about, in tangible terms, in numbers, how much you and your husband lost as a result. I think everybody who is in this session today, their income, their earning power, and their finances have been affected by their health. But there is so much shame attached to that. And it's a really hard thing to talk about. So
it is.
I just want to thank you for going there, because I think a lot of people, I don't think, I know a lot of people
Yeah.
felt validated by
Yeah.
you sharing that.
Yes.
So
It's necessity.
whew, all right. With that, we are going to move along to Tiffany. Please, floor is yours. Share your story with us.
Thank you so much. Again, my name is Tiffany Pennell, and I'm honored to be here to share my story. In October 2014, as I was getting my hair done, my hairstylist saw two small bald spots in the back of my head. She asked me what was going on, and I told her that it had happened before and that I would go back to my dermatologist to get another steroid injection to help my hair grow back. I scheduled an appointment with my dermatologist. I got another steroid injection and then I went on my way. However, the weeks following, I began to notice that I was combing out more hair than normal. Eventually, I began to see more areas of my hair thinning out. I didn't know what was going on at the time. My hairstylist suggested I use this over the counter hair fiber to try to cover up the small patches of hair loss. I used it until I just couldn't use it anymore because I was losing more hair as the weeks and days went. I scheduled another appointment with my dermatologist. I had blood work done and then received the diagnosis of alopecia universalis. I was nearly bald with strands of hair hanging on. And
Mm,
at the time, I was going to work with winter hats on and hiding what I was dealing with because I didn't want anybody to see me. I ended up having to shave and go bald. And the following year, I began to notice my eyebrows thinning out,
mm,
my eyelashes falling out, and losing the rest of my body hair until I didn't have any hair at all on my body. And I was totally devastated with the whole process. Sorry.
It's okay. You're good. I got you.
Uh, my doctor recommended try different treatments and medication,
mm,
but because of the possible side effects, I declined.
mm,
I tried wearing a wig, but I didn't like it, so I stopped. I was drawing my eyebrows on so that having no eyebrows wouldn't be so noticeable,
mm,
um, which became tedious and cumbersome. And at times I would forget that I drew my eyebrows on and accidentally wipe them off if I was scratching. So it was a little embarrassing.
yeah.
Um, at the time, I had no one to identify with as a woman who had to go bald due to a condition I couldn't control. I began Googling beautiful bald women to try to find that identity.
Mm,
I remember buying a magazine for women at the time called More, and it was for women 40 and over. And I was flipping through the pages, and I just saw this beautiful black bald woman who looked like me and looked like she may have the same condition as I had. I researched her and found out that she did, and she does have alopecia, and she wrote a book called The Bald Mermaid,
mm,
which detailed her journey with alopecia. During the early part of my journey, I was getting comments like, "It's just hair,"
mm,
and "Are you going through chemotherapy? Are you sick?" I would continuously hide my head with a ball cap, and I would put sunglasses on so no one could see me without hair. I just felt like I was all by myself. I had no one to talk to who understood how I felt emotionally about it. And there were times when I would look at old photos of myself when I had hair and immediately become sad and just distraught. But now I have accepted my baldness, and I have been able to be a walking testimony of how God has given me strength and courage to keep going. Um, I know that it's important to share my story because I know that there's always someone that's going to have to hear it. There's always going to be somebody else that's going to be diagnosed with this condition. It may not even be alopecia, it may be something else. But I just want others to know that they are not by themselves in dealing with whatever condition they had been diagnosed with. I know that I am still beautiful, with or without hair. And it has also opened opportunities for me to educate and create awareness about alopecia areata. I have been able to encourage others to feel comfortable with not wearing their wig if they don't want to, and just going bald and exposing themselves and being okay with it. I did begin a support group called Share, and it's spelled SHAIRE. So it's a combination of the word share and hair, to serve as a support system and provide a safe place for those who are dealing with alopecia, and to continue to provide awareness and education of alopecia. It is still an ongoing journey for me. However, I want to continue to use whatever platform God gives me to share my story, to encourage others, and to let them know that they are not alone. Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. I just want to comment and say I think you've made a lot of really brave choices, and you're really setting an incredible example for other people who are trying to hold on to all of the different pieces of identity that they might be going through as they lose their hair due to alopecia. I have two friends who are newly diagnosed that I told to join this session so that they could hear you talk. And now and this is why I just think that you've really made some brave choices, and you're not hiding. And which isn't to say that it's not okay to wear a wig or to wear a hat, but I love
Right.
I love thinking of the moment. I have this image in my head of you look in the mirror one day and you take off the hat and you take off the sunglasses, and maybe it's 5 minutes outside of the house, 10 minutes outside of the house. That's a really big thing that you did, and it's a really beautiful example that you're setting for other people. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Gosh, y'all are gonna make me cry today. This is good stuff. All right, Rachel, it's your turn to share your story. Please don't make me cry. We're getting before the end of this session.
As long as I don't cry, then we'll be good. Yeah, hi everyone. I'm really happy to be here today to share my experiences. So in my diagnosis story, I was first diagnosed at the age of 25 after honestly a pretty traumatic health journey. I had just returned home to California. I completed my master's degree in neuroscience in London, and I started having like these weird upper stomach pains. And then I actually, long story short, I was actually misdiagnosed with multiple myeloma, which is a form of like pretty rare cancer. And I thought I had this for 2 months before finding out I didn't have it. So needless to say, you can imagine how traumatic that is when you are 25 years old. So after multiple bone marrow biopsies, they finally realized like, no, you don't have this. But they also didn't tell me what I did have. So they didn't really know what else was wrong with me. So after that kind of cancer scare, I went to multiple hematologists, oncologists, rheumatologists, immunologists, anything ending with like a gist. I saw them. Yeah, I'm sure people can relate to that. So finally, I started my job at UCLA, where I actually got to see the head rheumatologist. Literally, the head rheumatologist at UCLA was the only guy who could figure this out. And he finally diagnosed me with primary Sjogren's and Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which is like a hypermobility syndrome that can be associated with some autoimmune diseases. And then we kind of went over my childhood symptoms to realize I've had this since childhood. Like I've had 13 knee surgeries, I've had 2 nasal surgeries, and that was like all before I was 20. So clearly there was like something going on in the background, right? So since my diagnosis, I've seen many rheumatologists and specialists related to my Sjogren's. I've had some doctors not even know what Sjogren's is. So I've literally had to like explain to them what this disease is. A lot of them, even if they do know it, they don't know that it's a systemic disease and it's associated with the development of like lymphoma or other like really scary things. In terms of like my daily experience, like, so what life is like for me now, I get debilitating fatigue. Y'all know what I'm talking about. Intense dryness in my eyes. and mouth. Like right now, I'm very dry, so if I drink water, excuse me. I get sinus and ear infections almost monthly. I get like extreme jaw pain because of all like the inflammation from your salivary glands. That sometimes limits my ability to even eat anything. I feel like I have constant stomach problems, chronic pain from all my knee surgeries, and then just everything else that is Sjogren's related. So not only living with that, but then on top of having a pretty intense PhD, doing that with a severe systemic illness is definitely difficult. It's hard to find time for self-care, as I'm sure many of us can relate to. I often find that I'm putting my clinical or research work ahead of my health because I have deadlines to meet or demands, whatever. And I think a lot of us can relate to this, that we take care of others maybe more than we take care of ourselves. So because of this, I often find myself trying to downplay, or just sometimes I just like straight up try to ignore the fact that I have an autoimmune disease. Because I'm honestly deep down, I'm scared what the future will look like because I'm so young when I was diagnosed. Also, my rheumatologist that I'm currently seeing, he's like, well, we have no other options for you. So good luck with that. I also, as a PhD student, I make very little money. So I find myself having to spend so much of it on resources to find other alternative things that could maybe benefit me, like functional medicine doctors, supplements, acupuncture, what have you. Even as like a scientist too, I find myself trying to try new things that honestly have like little empirical research value, as some of the previous talks have discussed, just because sometimes I'm like desperate for my symptoms to kind of improve or to feel better. And then through a lot of time and energy spent on researching my own disease and things that may help, I've kind of realized the importance of saving yourself. So we have to be our own advocates for better medical care, mental health care, and then obviously we want to kind of advocate to have more emphasis placed on autoimmune disease research. That's one of the reasons I joined the Autoimmune Association, because I wanted to learn more about like clinical trials, research, and then just learn more about my own disease so I could try to be my own advocate. I think women, and especially women of color, are really dismissed in terms of what symptoms people have at doctors. So they're kind of gaslit and said like, oh, it's anxiety, you're fine. So I want kind of to emphasize that people like be your own advocate and try to take on, know your illness so you can kind of demand the care that you deserve. And then I think another thing I want to emphasize is to get support from your family and friends, if available, or whoever, literally whoever. You're not a burden. You deserve extra help or care if you need it. I've personally really struggled with this. I literally have some friends who told me that they forgot I have an autoimmune disease because I never talk about it. So that's one of the goals like I'm working on. I'm really trying to like be more of a voice, and part of that was doing this conference to kind of just emphasize that it's okay to ask for help. It doesn't mean you aren't tough or strong or anything like that. I think if anything, people with chronic illnesses are like some of the strongest out there. And then try to get others to help others to understand what you go through on a daily basis so you don't suffer alone. There's a lot of resources out there, but please prioritize yourself. Thank you.
Great.
Thank you, Rachel. I just don't understand how you're balancing a PhD program on
I don't either.
right now. I'm just so incredibly impressed by you. And you said a lot, but one thing that I wanted to key in on that I think a lot of folks can understand is that circular feedback loop when you have jaw pain, you can't eat, and then you have fatigue. And what an unbelievably vicious cycle that is to try to break out of, to just never mind studying for your PhD and for your lab work and your research. But it's just like when you can't eat, how do you even get up out of bed and take a shower in the morning?
Literally.
It's so big. Okay, so we have a few minutes to start to wrap things up, ladies. You guys have already shared so much, and so much of what you said I know is resonating with people. It's validating people's experiences. It's empowering them the next time that they have to advocate for themselves. But if there is one final message that you could each share with the audience today, I'm going to start with you, Tanya. Any last parting words for everybody that's in the session today?
Yes, I would like to leave 2 words: faith and hope. If you can put your faith together with your hope, you can live. I want you to know that God is able to do anything but fail. I had to put my faith and trust in Him no matter what it looked like, no matter what the doctor said. It's who report do you believe? I said, I choose to believe the report of the Lord. Even in my darkest hours when they were saying it's over, even when they said there's nothing else they can do, I had to look to God and say, God, this is not the plan that you have for me. I know I can get through this. I know with the strength of God, I can do all things through Christ. And greater is He that is in me than he that is in the world. And I just have to rise up and stand on the word of God and put my faith and trust. I'm not down in any one faith nor trust in their belief, but all I can tell you is what I experienced with the faith and trust. And I'm putting my hope in God's hand and putting my life in His hand to know that He is in control. And as both ladies said, you have to be that voice. You have to be that advocate to speak for yourself. Make them hear you, make them listen, because nobody knows your body like you know your body. And when you're going through something, you know it, and you have to be that self-advocate person. But if you don't have that strength and that boldness, as my kids said, I'll speak for you. I'll be that voice to help you, to encourage you, to lift you up, and to push you in that area that can get you the help that you need, and to be there for you. So you can, look me up on my website, United Together Lupus Foundation, or utlfoundation.org. You can find me.
Thank you, Tanya. Tiffany, we're going to go in the same order. Tiffany, you're up.
Well, I want to ditto what Tanya said, but I also wanted to add, allow and acknowledge your feelings
Yeah.
because they're valid.
Yeah.
Share your story with others because it's important. Someone is going to need to hear your story.
Yeah.
And be kind to yourself.
Yeah.
You are not alone.
You're not.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tiffany. Rachel.
Well, I was going to say the same exact thing. You're not alone.
You're not.
As someone with a younger onset autoimmune disease too, I think it's hard being told how like uncommon it is, because that can make you feel like even more isolated. And that's kind of one reason I put myself forward to tell this story, is to show that there are kind of young onset folks out there. I'm not like an influencer, but like anyone's welcome to like reach out to me if they just want to like talk or get support. I'm happy to have connections with others. Y'all are so strong and powerful. Everybody out there, you get through the day, let alone like everything else that we do. So just reflect on yourself with kindness, compassion, and honestly have a little awe for yourself for what you've done and what you've accomplished and how far you've gotten.
Amen.
Oof. All right. Well, thank you. It is always so hard to know how to wrap up a session like this, because you guys are all so incredible and such empowering people. And something that I want to leave the 3 of you with is each of the 3 of you really offered up yourself in service of this community. So please make sure that you take your own advice and that you take care of yourself first while you're supporting others. Okay? Thank you, thank you, thank you. You guys are an absolute inspiration to the entire autoimmune community and everybody that's in this session today. And I just wish you all the best in the future, and hope that you continue to find that faith and that hope and that kindness for yourselves as well. Thank you all so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And we made it through without crying.
Yay.